In this video we're going to do some simplifying. So we're going to first start by simplifying these square root expression, square root of negative 81 minus the square root of negative 144. I'm going to take negative 81 and I'm going to think of it as two parts. First, I've got the square root of 81. Then I've got the square root of negative 1, right? I take the negative, I break it out separate from the 81. Now the square root of 81 is easy enough. That's 9. And instead of writing the square root of negative 1, we always write I. So this becomes 9I. Then from that I'm going to subtract the similar process with 144 times the square root of negative 1. Now the square root of 144 is going to be 12, so this becomes 9I minus 12. And the square root of negative 1, why, that's I. So this is 9I minus 12I. I know what that is. That's a negative 3I. Great. Next, let's look at squaring negative 5 minus the square root of negative 9. If you're not comfortable with just using the formula for squaring a binomial, we can go ahead and write this out in the long form as negative 5 minus the square root of negative 9 times negative 5 minus the square root of negative 9. This thing times itself. And let's start multiplying it out. Negative 5 times negative 5 is going to be a positive 25. Negative 5 times negative square root of negative 9. So that's minus 5 times the square root of negative 9. So that's a negative times a negative. Gosh, sign errors everywhere. Positive 5 times the square root of negative 9. Whew, signs almost got me that time. Negative times negative here, so this is going to be a plus 5 square roots of negative 9. Negative times a negative, this is going to be plus the square root of negative 9 squared. Okay, so this is negative 9. We're going to have 25 minus 9. That's 16. These two are going to be plus 5, so that's plus 10 square roots of negative 9. So let's change this to not the square root of negative 9, but the square root of 9 times the square root of negative 1. The square root of 9 is 3, so this is plus 10 times 3, and then the square root of negative 1 is I times I. So this whole thing simplifies to 16 plus 30I. Alright, we almost made a sign error, but we did it. I'll see you guys next video.